G'day and welcome back to another episode of Across the Ditch. I am one half of the podcast, Joel Rasmussen, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Paddy Baines from Squared Up MMA.
How are we going?
I'm doing well. How are you today, Paddy?
I'm good. I'm good. It was big industry week this week for radio, which is my day job. We had our radio awards last night, and we came away pretty good, which is fun. And it's good to catch up with people in the industry as well.
Excellent. Did you absolutely clean up at the awards?
There's a radio station called News Talk ZB that is like the biggest radio station in New Zealand, talkback station. They typically clean up, but our station called The Rock, which is as you might guess from the name, is a
Dwayne
rock
Johnson.
station. Yeah, they did very well. They kind of won nearly everything they were in, and More FM Northland also did very, very well.
Excellent.
But I am excited to talk about this card. We're finally in my neck of the woods.
Yes, we are. Last episode was about Hex 35
and Road to Hex.
And Road to Hex, where there was a great night of fights. I took a glove, which is cool.
You took one.
It was just out the back at the end of the night, and it was just sitting there.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to have this. So now I have that. It was a great night of fights. We got two new champions, one and still, which is very cool. Kieran Joblin retaining the title, Marwan Rahiki winning the title, and Kasib Murdoch also winning the title. As well as that sick photo of Jake Piper smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
That was also cool. But yes, as you said, we are... From my perspective, we are now traveling across the Dutch. This is our first episode where we're talking about purely just a New Zealand promotion. The first episode we did 50-50. Now we are traveling across to Shuriken Fight Series 21.
Yeah, 21 of these. And it's not like there's only been 21. Before they had the numbers, they had names. So like each event had its own name, like Proving Ground or Demolition
Smash.
or kind of fancy names.
Grunt.
I don't think they were using would you say those are onomatopoeias?
I would say that. What would
Yeah.
if you could name an event? Like if we had to drop numbers and go back to naming events, what name would you give an event?
Oh, you'd go something Roman, eh? Like Shuriken Fight Series Coliseum. I don't know. Nah.
Anyway, we're talking about Shuriken Fight Series 21, which will be on the UFC Fight Pass.
It will be.
Very cool. I love not having to pay pay-per-view for events. Ooh, I love the Fight Pass.
Well, lucky for us, and well, no, I guess I've got a CSN membership, so I don't have to pay for Hex either. But yeah, so CSN.watch covers the prelims, which I probably will talk about briefly because that's probably where my kind of expertise leans in is into this level of amateur scene in New Zealand. Especially what excites me is like most of these people on the amateur card I've interviewed in one way or another, be it one-on-one or at other events. So I'm very involved in the current landscape of Shuriken Fight Series. So opening the main card on Shuriken Fight Series, which is on Fight Pass I reckon it's going to be about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock when the main card starts. I believe the fight night starts at 5 New Zealand time. So we've got Thalia Greatz versus Brooke Pritchard. I can't say I know too much about Thalia. She's been coming over. She's coming over from Australia for the fight. I believe you might have a bit more on that.
Yes, I do.
But Brooke, I know quite well. I've sat down with Brooke one-on-one. I've been following her amateur career. She's a city kickboxing fighter. It's one of those unfortunate weight classes where there's not many fighters in that weight class, and some of the other ones are in her gym. So it's a very limited, and that's part of the reason she went pro. She's kind of fought everyone in the amateur scene in New Zealand. And so she went pro at the Shuriken Fight Series 20, and she won that fight. And she's fantastic. Like she had a crazy amateur record, four wins in a row. Two of them against Rian Hales from up north. She's from Whakatane, I believe. But so yeah, she's having a second pro fight in Shuriken Fight Series 21, and she is, I think, going to be looking for the Shuriken title after this fight. I think she mentioned. Got into fighting through Whip to Warrior, which is now the Ultra program, and via her BJJ as well. So that's kind of how she got into it. And she's just caught the bug and been loving it ever since. Makes it work via her. She does PTs and stuff like that as well. Obviously has sponsors. And Brogan is essentially her coach. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this fight. She always puts on a war, and I love chatting to her afterwards as well. So I'm very excited for that one.
The great Brogan Cobb,
Yes,
as Kieran Joblin referred to him.
one of the
That's
greatest
Brogan Cobb
CKB.
over there.
Yeah,
Not
greatest,
Brogan Anderson, Brogan Cobb.
The greatest city kickboxing shirt that you might see. The one that says Cobb. That's who it's based on.
Yes, based the New World Order font Cobb. But yeah, she will be standing across from Thalia Greatz, who will be making her pro debut. Thalia trains out of Elements Martial Arts in South Australia, which is very cool. I don't know if I've ever really even interviewed anyone fighting out of South Australia, so that's very cool. I believe it's in South Australia. I'm like 90% sure. Element Martial Arts, her father is her coach, Josh Greatz, which is always very interesting. I find that very interesting because it's coach and fighter is already a very interesting dynamic. And then add in family ties. She mentioned in an interview I watched her do, they made like a documentary about one of her fights, which I would greatly recommend you watch. It's on the old YouTube. She mentioned in there that she'd been watching her dad train fighters since before Element was even like a gym. It was like just training people in the backyard, and she's kind of been watching from them. And she, much like you were saying about her opponent, she kind of caught the bug in terms of trained and trained and trained. And then I believe she's had Muay Thai fights as well. Like she's been doing whole different stuff, if I'm not mistaken, based on what I remember being said in that documentary. She's 4-2 as an amateur, including some notable wins over Kim Tran and Jasmine Nikora, two very, very, very good local girls. Kim Tran's gone on to be 1-0 in pro, and Jasmine is still fighting in the amateurs, but she's also very good. And 4-2, those two are Amina Hedaya and Danielle Curtis, who are
Old drop bear.
the old drop bear who we're familiar with, and Amina Hedaya, fantastic fighter in her own right. So Thalia takes hard fights, does very well. Says Danielle was a decision. Her win over Jasmine was a decision. But outside of that, her other 3 wins are all KOs. One in the first, one in the second, and one in the third. So she's very dangerous. Something she really mentioned, like especially in that documentary, she liked to point out 2 of those KOs coming by the way of the knee. So that's where I think that kind of Muay Thai influence comes in. But she fights high-level people in the amateurs. Coming in now to the pro. I'm very excited to see her go pro. I think Brooke Pritchard, I think that's a great matchup. Like, I think it'll deliver as a fight, as you said. Like, Brooke shows up to fight. And also two titles in her amateur career. She won the title off Jasmine. Well, not off Jasmine. I believe it was vacant. And then defended the title against Kim in her next fight. It's been over a year since she was in the cage. Her last fight was March 3rd, 2024. So that's interesting time to see kind of a layoff, but also kind of what does going away from it for a year and just working on yourself do, especially when you make the jump to pro. So it's cool to see her both make the jump to pro in general, but also fly and literally cross the ditch and go fight in another country. She's fought in other states before in her amateur career, but getting her to fight in another country is very cool.
How do you reckon she got the name the Great White? Did she say in one of her interviews?
Not that I saw. Obviously, pun on the name there, Greatz and the Great. I'm gonna say for her that when she smells blood in the water, she just attacks. I don't know if that's why.
That's good. I like that.
She can use that for an Instagram edit if she'd like. That's my gift.
I'll if she comes by my interview setup, I'll ask her.
Yes, please. Actually, yes, please do.
No, like I'll ask her that exact thing. I'll be like, "Is it for this reason?"
Yes.
Yeah, because I have to know why. But I actually missed that the great the play on words there. And the other thing worth mentioning for this whole pro card, nearly all the fighters are either one or two fights in, or it's their amateur debut. So um, that's something you don't sometimes. Quite often, Shuriken will have like I guess what you'd call veterans at this level of pro MMA, but this is quite a fresh bunch of pros. So I think it's going to be a good card all round, just because they all probably have something, feel like they've got something to prove. But yeah, moving on to the next fight. Speaking of pro debuts, both of these guys are making their pro debut. We've got Vinnie Stowe versus Tama Hiquilly. Tama Hiquilly is an incredibly active fighter. He has been essentially, I think he's fought on every Shuriken Fight Series for the last four fight, yeah, 21, 20, 19, 17, 15, and 14. So um crazy active record. He in the last Shuriken, he won. He became the second ever champ, simultaneous champ. So at 2019, he became the bantamweight champ, I believe, and then he went up to featherweight, and I'm just double checking that because he went up a weight class. He might have been flyweight and then gone up. Amateur. Why is it
Bantam to
not so?
feather is what it says here on Tapology.
Cool. Yep, I was correct. Trust myself. Yeah. And so then he became simultaneous champion. And then what's better springboard to go pro off than achieving that. So he's going pro on this card versus Vinnie Stowe, who is also going pro. Also, I mentioned Tama's amateur record as well. He's 5-0, undefeated. And Brooks is 1-0 pro, and she is 4-0, which I think I did mention actually, just not quite as directly. And yeah, so Tama is 5-0 going into his pro debut, and he's up against Vinnie Stowe, who is. Oh, sorry. So actually, no, I've got more to say about Tama. Do you remember the interview where Eugene mentioned sometimes you just meet people who can crack?
Yes.
And Kai's one of those people. I believe he has said the same. Tama is another one of those people. Tama has tremendous knockout power, especially for his size, being a bantamweight, and so we'll see what happens when he gets in the cage with Vinnie, who's making his pro debut, and Vinnie is fighting out of. I have it written down on a different doc here. Vinnie is HOV, so I actually home of
Violence.
maybe. Yeah, it just says HOV here on the card. So obviously it stands for something. Um, hopefully it's tagged here. No. All right. I don't. Other than that, I don't know where he's from. His topology doesn't say. So he is coming in. He is. Yeah. So I saw him for the first time on another fight night here. It's a hybrid fight night called Arsenal X. He fought on Arsenal X2 against Nico de Lee Kingi, who we'll be talking about on this card probably at the end. So he is coming into this with a 0-3 record. So he's going pro debut with no amateur wins in MMA. I do believe he's kickboxing background, Muay Thai background. A lot like Dane Edge, who we'll also be talking about. So he's kind of coming into this. I did see him fight on Shuriken Fight Series 15 against Yas and Yas. He lost that, unfortunately to him, to knees on the body on the ground, which is kind of a brutal way to have it stopped. I can't imagine it being very nice taking knees to the ribs like that. So yeah, he's decided to go pro, and to go pro against Tama Hiquilly as your first pro fight, that's a tough fight. That's a very tough fight for no matter who you are. Tama He's got momentum behind him. Definitely an up and comer coming out of City Kickboxing. Another Tahitian fighter from City Kickboxing with
I wanted to bring that up.
Keone fighting last week.
Yes, I spoke to Keone afterwards.
So he wants to put Tahiti on the map, just like Keone does, and just like Tahiti do this. Wants to do the same. So we'll see how this fight goes. I'm nervous for Vinnie, obviously with his record, and just even if he was like coming in 3-0 and he was up against Tama, it's like Tama's an absolute weapon. So we will see how this one goes. Vinny's, yeah, Tama's. I don't want to be like blowing too much smoke on up Tama's bum, but Tama, all of his fights other than his first has come via finish. So, yeah, we will. I would say expect a finish.
I understand that your area of expertise and knowledge is in the MMA space. Same with myself. But I wanted to talk about Vinny's fight against Nikora.
Yeah.
So, because I have a,
I was there. I did watch it. Yeah.
Well, I have like a slight understanding of Arsenal X. So, what is that custom rules? Like, what was that?
It's different. Each round is a different code.
Oh, okay.
So, there's two rule sets on that night. There is Arsenal. There's Arsenal X rules and X Max, or there was like so that's the X, the alternate one. Or Extreme. There's X rules and Extreme rules. Extreme rules has MMA, whereas X rules is boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, I believe. And in that order, I think. And then the Extreme Rules has drops kickboxing, I think.
Extreme rules, you can use chairs and stuff. I've seen WWE.
Yeah, so Arsenal X2 was probably the biggest one they've done. That one was crazy. Aaron Toe was a headline that one.
Yes.
And that was a really, really cool night.
Do you remember? Yeah. So, do you remember if it was an Extreme Rules match? God, that's such a funny thing to say. Extreme Rules. Was it an Extreme Rules match or like an X Rules?
Yeah. It's,
I was trying to look on the poster, but the poster's not big enough to be able to read.
Yeah. I know. I can't remember actually. It was over a year ago now.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it before, but yeah, just another example. We've been kind of talking about it over the past 2 episodes, kind of. It's cool to see more people. It's cool to see places that you don't expect getting repped to get repped. At least from my perspective, not a lot of Tahitians that I know over in Oz. Maybe there's a bigger Tahitian population over in New Zealand, but it's still cool to see people. You know, it's cool to see Tahiti getting repped.
Well, Freestyle Bender's over there at the moment, like filming some content and putting on a fight night, I believe.
Really?
Tahiti. Yeah. So
that's mad.
They're really trying to get Tahitian MMA to grow, especially because it's only for the last 3 years it was legalized or something like that. Like very recent, very very recent. And the other, I seem to have so much to say about Tama. A surprise Tahitian for me, anyway. With a name like Tama, Tama is a common Māori name. And him being Polynesian, he looks a bit Māori. And he also has like his what's the name? His tāmoko on his arm. So I was like, when I spoke to him and heard him speak for the first time, and he had an accent that wasn't a Kiwi one, I was like, oh shit. Caught me off guard. Hiquilly probably should have put me on that he's not Māori, because the Māori language doesn't have the letter Q, I believe. Fun fact there. So yeah, I'm trying to think, do I know any Māori words with Q? But no, I'm pretty sure there aren't any. So that was, yeah, well, I was surprised when I found out he was Tahitian. But so that leads us on to our next fight, which is Dane Edge versus Kyle Mayocchi. Back-to-back fight weekends for the Mayocchi brothers. We had Brody fighting last weekend, who you spoke to after his fight. Decision win for him.
Very hard-fought decision win for Brody. And yes, I was like, "How are you celebrating?" And he's like, "Can't celebrate too hard. Have to get home and help out Kyle."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, then afterwards, you guys can have like double celebration." And he was like, "Exactly. We'll have a big celebration after Kyle Mayocchi gets the win."
hmm So this is actually a rematch. This fight, they've fought before. La for it was Dane's last fight actually. Two Shuriken Fight Series ago. It was when I believe it was a short notice fight. But I can't say for certain. That was like the one card I wasn't here to. No, sorry, no, I did cover that. That was the end of last year. So I was covering that. Um, there's something telling me that it was a short notice fight. So this one's full camp, for sure. It was round one guillotine in the last fight. So uh, Dane kind of needs to be careful about exposing his neck. Obviously, he comes from a kickboxing and Muay Thai background. So MMA is a very kind of new space for him. He's coming into this with an 0-3 record, same as Vinnie Stowe's amateur record. Um, and Dane fights out of South Island Liga, which is a Christchurch kickboxing gym, where Nico de Kingi has come from there. Some big kickboxers have come from that gym down there. Um,
Do you know
so
what Liga means?
no, I don't. I think I was having this I think it's just a founder, I think, who potentially bought kickboxing to New Zealand, maybe.
Because I don't mean to be, I really don't mean to speak out of turn here and say the wrong thing, but in some content that'll come out on the Southern Cross Combat channel in a few weeks, um, the
Bit of
great
cross promotion here.
I know it's cross promotion on my own channel.
Yeah.
Uh, I was watching the Great Combat TV put out has released a bunch of old footage. We talked about that last time. And if you go and you watch some of old Eugene Behrman's old fights, he's repping a place that's I can't remember the first part, but the last part is
Balmoral Liga, I believe it
yes,
was. Yes.
yes, which makes me wonder: is there a connection there?
Yes. So Balmoral, yeah, I believe the first one was um, City Liga. Was that Pat Lamb's one? Sifu Lamb. And then Lolo opened Balmoral Liga, who he fought under Sifu Lamb. And that's where all these boys, like the Eugene Behrmans, the Doug Vineys, all came from Balmoral. It's actually just down the road from my house. It's actually quite a small gym. Um, and yes, I'm going to say Liga's perhaps where the person, a family name or something like that.
Okay.
Because there's also like Ghost Fist Liga, South Island Liga, City Liga, as I mentioned.
Mm.
Um, very common in the kickboxing and Muay Thai name community. But going back to this fight, Dane Edge versus Kyle Mayocchi. So I was talking about Dane. He kind of had his MMA Pro debut on Hex 30 when Hex came to New Zealand against Ollie Schmidt. And he lost that one round one, spinning back fist, and he's kind of just hasn't kind of gotten back on his feet since his pro debut with another two losses after that against Jet Fisher at Hex Fight Series 34, the previous Hex card. And see Kyle at Shuriken Fight Series 19. So he's gone up against Kyle, who's a bit of a weapon. And as we know, both those brothers moved up from Australia and started studying at City Kickboxing. Both of them were on Relentless. And Kyle, yeah, is just kind of on a tear. He has gotten three finishes in the first two rounds. The last two of in the first rounds, and his pro debut was a second round finish. And all of them have that second round finish was a TKO. The other one's a chokes. So he loves his jiu-jitsu by the look of it. I haven't spoken to him about that in particular. I will be watching our interview we did when I spoke to him after Shuriken Fight Series 19. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think it will be a good fight, especially if it stays on the feet. I imagine it will be in Kyle's best interest to take it off the feet because that's where Dane will specialize. But I guess Dane's background is it's being aware of those takedowns from kickboxing and Muay Thai. You know they're not a threat. So that's kind of what makes for me MMA more exciting. Is yeah, the stand up is cool, but it's the threat of the takedown that makes it exciting, and why I prefer it over other combat sports.
I mentioned, I think in the last episode, I was talking about I'm a simple enough guy where if someone's just nice enough to me, I'm like, I like him.
Hmm.
When I came over to cover Hex 30 in New Zealand, I was staying at the Fight Hotel. So it's me and a bunch of Aussies. And Dane was also staying at the Fight Hotel. I hadn't realized that how far out his gym was to
Yes.
Auckland. So
Yeah.
he stayed at the Fight Hotel. And I just remember going, like, introducing myself. Hey, man, Joel, pleasure to meet you. Dane. And he responds in a Kiwi accent. And in my head, I was like, why are you staying at the hotel? This is like, what do you, well, I don't understand why. But literally, that's all it took. And I was like, I like this guy. I like Dane.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Hour and a half flight to Christchurch.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
and so it made sense for him to be staying at the Fight Hotel. But I remember that interaction because I just remember thinking at the time, why is there a wait? What do you mean you're the away side, bro? You're from here. What do you mean? But but he was always nice. It was always cool. I always like seeing him fight, and yeah, it's cool to see him fight in MMA. I haven't had like an extensive conversation with him, but I know that he's a very accomplished and kickboxer, and he comes from that kind of striking background. I wonder if he's making a run at MMA and that's what he wants to do, or if he's just taking it to get fights. Like either one I wouldn't blame him for either if he wants to pursue MMA or if it's just
Yeah.
like more fights, more fun. And Kyle's very cool. I don't know if I've ever spoken to Kyle. I've spoken to Brody in an on-camera sense, and I bumped into Brody at City Kickboxing when I was there. I don't think I've spoken to Kyle, but both the brothers are very, very good. Uh, I think it's important to mention that I just thought it'd be interesting to mention so far in Kyle's career, this is the first time it's the same opponent, but this is I mean, is it technically the second time? Because it's the same guy. He's fighting someone that has less fights than he has. His first two fights, he was 0-0 against a guy who had six fights, who was
Hmm.
3-3. And in his second fight, he was 1-0 against a guy who was 4-2. So
Hmm.
he's typically fighting people with more experience, which I think is an insight to who Kyle is as a person who's like, I need to take fights. I need to fight people who are on that kind of that next level up. And then just in this scenario, he's having to do a rematch. I'm assuming probably difficult to find Kyle fights,
Hmm.
which probably speaks to who Dane is. Where if they're like, you want to fight that guy again, and he's like, yes, I do, I will do that.
Yeah. I mean, I probably if it was short notice, as I suspect, um, it'll be like, yeah, I want to verse him on a full camp, kind
Yes.
of. Yeah. Um, and this is actually, yeah, I think the only matchup on this card that isn't doesn't involve a pro debuter. So that is saying something, really, um, on how new these pros are from what I was saying earlier.
Yes, it's cool to see that kind of like next crop of guys come through,
Hmm.
and even the people like going back to the first fight, like Talia is making her debut, but it's against a 1-0 person, so it's still like that early days. It's very cool to see that. It's cool to kind of see the next wave of New Zealand brackets and some
Hmm.
Aussies talent come through.
And yeah, and I'm glad like I've been there from like an interviewing and standpoint. Is I was there as they kind of go pro, so I get to like I'm clued up on who they are, which makes
Bros
this a
squared
lot
up.
easier as well. Yes, so I'm squared up with who they are, and it just makes this easier. I've just got more to say about them, and over time, I'll hopefully get some one-on-one time with them. Some of them live further away than others, obviously, with Dane living in Christchurch, but I do go to Christchurch quite regularly, as I lived there for the better part of a decade. So um, I got a lot of I still got a life down there. But moving on to what may actually be the main event of the card. Unfortunately, there was a news that the main event fight this week is no longer happening. Via Ando has pulled out of his fight with Nicol Kingi, which we will talk about after this one. So there's a good chance, and there's a good chance this might be the main event now, and it is Brian Muller versus Jesse King. So Jesse King, another alumni from Relentless, also going pro debut off
That's
the
why I know his name.
yeah
Kind of. I also have a different story, but yes.
yeah. he became the middleweight champ, amateur middleweight champ in the last Shuriken Fight Series. So another perfect leaping board to like go pro. Got an amateur record. It's like, all right, it's time. And yeah, so he is from Whakatane MMA. Another traveller into New Zealand. Sorry, into Auckland for this card. And his amateur record is 5-1. Sorry, one loss on Gamma, but everything else was the annoying thing on Shuriken on Tapology with the Gamma results is it doesn't say what the method of win or loss was. It just says loss win. But all of his wins outside of Gamma, which are Full Force, Fight Co, and both and Shuriken Fight Series, were all finishes, TKOs, or knockouts. So I expect this is going to be some heavy hands being thrown. Jesse's a really cool guy. He's a father. We spoke about that last time, and came second place at Worlds and IMAF. So that is very, very accomplished amateur career. So I can't wait to see how his pro record goes.
Is he always been an MMA fighter? Like, did he come into Relentless having had kickboxing experience or anything?
No, from my understanding, is he's only been MMA.
Okay.
I've haven't seen his name. The main reason I know other people come from other backgrounds is I've seen their names on some of the other big events, and I haven't seen his name anywhere else other than MMA events. So I'm fairly confident he is pure MMA. And he is fighting against Brian Muller, who is the second element fighter on this pro card. And I believe you have done some research on Brian and know a little bit about him.
I've done a little bit of research, yes, as much as I could. There's not a social page that I could find. He makes it a bit difficult to track, but he's entering this bout as a 0-1 pro. This is all information I am gauging from Tapology, and as we know, Tapology never lies and is always correct. His last fight was the decision loss to Joe Brown, who I couldn't find any footage of that fight, but I was looking. I definitely was. Joe Brown holds a decision win in the amateurs over D Samasoni. So that's a very good name to hold a win over in the Amis. But Brian Muller, rather, I don't know if I said Miller earlier. It's Muller. There's a U there.
Muller, yeah. It's probably Muller.
I'm going to go with Muller. Like Muller, like money. Brian Money Muller. You can have that one, Brian. But yet again, fighting out of Element, it's really cool to see. It's good. First off, it's cool to just see people from Element get fights. As I said, I'm not uber familiar with the South Australian scene. I don't see too much of it. So to see not only one person repping it in Thalia, but two is always sick. I love when gyms get to have multiple people on, and especially being the like away side. So to have two people come in, they've got that. You're fighting the away from home. You come in with a bit of chip on your shoulder. That's what also you'd got to imagine coming in 0-1 as a pro. You're trying to kind of bounce off that loss and kind of rewrite and get back on track. So you got to assume maybe a little bit of a chip. This is my assumption. I don't know Brian like that, but yet again, based on Tapology, 0-3 as a amateur. There's also a Muay Thai fight in there in Element Fight Night, which is the fight night put on by by the gym Element in South Australia. But as I said, there isn't a social page, so I couldn't do too much research regarding that. But what I am interested in, and I was looking at the poster, and I'm seeing if I can see it here. There isn't any weight classes listed on the poster. Last fight for Brian was middleweight. He fought middleweight at pro. There's a catchweight before that at amateur. And there was also a light heavyweight bout and a middleweight bout, the other two as an amateur. And if I'm not mistaken, Jesse King, he's also fighting at middleweight. Never mind. For some reason, Jesse fought at light heavyweight at Gamma. That's where I was getting the light heavyweight part from. So never mind. I'm going to assume there's a middleweight bout because both of those guys fight at middleweight.
Yes, it's that will be one of my critiques of the poster, is if it just had the weight class as well on it. But there's a lot of information on here, in fairness, so I can see them not fitting that in. It's a lot to ask. It's very
Is
crowded.
as you mentioned before, the main event has been cancelled. We'll talk about that in a moment because you know more about that than I do. But so this has been kind of promoted to the main event as far as you're aware?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware. So no better time to transition than talk about it now. So I saw a video yesterday. Nico Kingi on Instagram said that his fight's out. For whatever reason, Viando has pulled out. And I believe they're trying to find Nico a replacement. But it's a very light weight class. It's either bantamweight or flyweight. Let me have a quick look. Let's go Shuriken Fight Series on Topology, amateur featherweight. It was going to be bantamweight. And there aren't it's kind of this is like the first MMA fight Nick has had and like leading a card, essentially headlining a card. He's made the permanent switch to MMA now. He was kind of teetering between the two codes because he is a next level world kickboxer. He won King of the Ring 3 times in a row, 3-time champion. The only other person to do that is Israel Adesanya, obviously not the same weight class. And Viet Ando is an absolute weapon as well. Recently fought on Shuriken Fight Series 2. He was meant to be fighting Cooper Royal on that, and that would have been a scrap. Unfortunately, Cooper pulled out of that fight. And Tommy Wandila stepped up to the plate. Thanks for keeping that fight going through, Tommy. But it was a first round finish, and that's all of Viet Ando's MMA wins have come. Pro wins have come from first round finish. So this was when I saw this fight announced, I was so excited. I know both these fighters. It is going to be an absolute killer scrap. So to hear it fell through is especially week of. It's kind of heartbreaking for Nikora because he put in a lot of work on this camp. I think he even mentioned in the video it was a rough camp. He didn't start well. So maybe he'll still fight. But I imagine being a fighter when you put in the work for someone and you know they're also putting in a full camp to then fight on someone who's taking the fight on short notice. There's probably the win doesn't feel as good, I imagine. Because there's kind of like an asterisk next to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially depending on who they can find
Yeah.
for the replacement. Like you might be prepping for one style of guy and then you get like a completely different style because that's all they could really like
Yeah.
get for you at the time. I hope the fight gets rebooked in some way, whatever's going on with Viet Ando, whether it be an injury or something. I'm not sure if we know at this stage.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I'm sure I'll find out tomorrow when I mean, I could go to the weigh-ins tonight, but I think I've got something else on.
But yeah, so in a way, I feel a lot for Viet Ando because although he got to fight in his last fight, it was still like a pull out short notice.
Yeah.
So although you still get to fight and show off and have a great performance, it's still like a damn, bro. And then next fight, you have to pull out for whatever reason. So it's like, shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope it's nothing too serious for the reason that he can't fight. And yeah, I guess I'll update you anyway when I find out why it's not going through. And that's the pro card for oh, did I mention? Sorry, I feel like I didn't say. Oh, I didn't mention where Jesse's fighting out of. Jesse fights out of Fakatana MMA, and Coast BJJ, I believe.
Hmm.
Um, so a bit of a cross training there, which is obviously it's becoming a lot more common. Um, yeah. So, but I have to say, what I'm excited for the most for Shuriken Fight Series are these matchups. On the Ammy side, which is quite often I will sponsor the Ammy card, not an Ammy card, but I'll sponsor a prize. Just because obviously the pro fighters get paid and the Ammys don't, so I put up a performance of the night bonus for the amateurs. Money's tight at the moment, So I haven't done it in a few fights, but there is a previous winner on here fighting, and that is, I need to get rid of these tags, but Cullen Masters is he won the absolute scrapper. Like, he fought someone from Extreme last time. He's also fighting someone from Extreme this time. Another absolute scrapper, Gene Jeremic is the correct way to say his last name, but everyone calls him Gene Jeremic. I believe he even says that himself. And this is going to be an absolute scrap. Gene, he comes in absolute war, and Cullen doesn't stop. Like, he in the last fight, if he was in some precarious positions, and towards the end of the round, and then for some reason the guy kept releasing like the locks and stuff like that at the end, or he'd break out of them, and then he would just start wailing on him until the bell went. So I'm looking forward to Cullen and Gene. Eddie Thalia is fighting on this card from Auckland MMA. He won on the last Shuriken card, and he's fighting Rangi Kapua Moore, who is a new name to me. And if I quickly go through my doc, I believe that is his amateur debut. Yep, as far as I've got, he's got his 0-0 amateur. So since amateur debut, there's quite a few of those. Another cool matchup is Byron Wilson versus Sukhman Athwal. Sukhman is a phenom coming out of Extreme MMA. Pretty sure all of his fights have come from finish, potentially in the first round. And his only loss came to Tama Hiquilly, and that, I believe, was a decision. I think it's Tama's only decision, and it was a short notice fight. So it's like Suk needs to go pro and run their back with Tama. That's a fight that I really want to see, but Suk doesn't want to go pro until he has some belts, or has a belt anyway. And with the win here, I think his next fight might even be for a title. And a lot of other Tai Hiwi Goldsmith is probably an up and comer coming out of Shuriken MMA. I believe his last fight was against Ram Didumo, just before Ram went pro, and I believe that was on SFL 1. And so he's fighting Caden Skipper, who is what he fought on. What was the card he Road to Hex 3, right?
Road to X3 was not the most recent one, but the one before that.
Yeah, and the Caden fought in that.
Yes.
Yes. So Caden, and he won on that, right?
Yes, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe. I don't know because the outcome is not here. But if I'm not mistaken, I think City Kickboxing won both of the fights, the Ammy fights they had on Road to X3.
Or maybe he had his opponent pull out or something like that. Kind of like, because Byron says the same thing, where his Road to Hex he was on Road to Hex 3 as well, but obviously he pulled out. So yeah, I'm very excited for this pro card. But it's this amateur card as well. A lot of new faces for me to meet. Yeah, it's kind of why I do it, right? It's the amateurs. It's where you see the real passion come through, because they're doing it for the love of it. And when they come out of there with those wins, it's like, and seeing the joy in their face and like hearing it in their voice is kind of, and seeing their face light up when you ask them certain questions. I absolutely love it. So I can't wait for tomorrow night to be backstage. I honestly love Shuriken so much. Shuriken been very good to me, gave me my break for just doing interviews with fighters squared up. So I'm very proud to be, especially be currently the exclusive post-fight interview person for them. So yeah, we'll see what the future brings. I can't wait for this card, and yeah, I'm very bad at endings apparently.
No, it's fine. There is two more things I wanted to talk about. One, I wanted to bring up an Ammy name to you, a name that I'm somewhat familiar with, as in I saw the name, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, why do I feel like I know that guy? Mitch Kelly.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Mitch Kelly.
Why? Why did you think it was going to be Mitch Kelly?
Because Mitch Kelly was supposed to be on SFL 2, sorry. I think we mentioned him on our SFL 2 breakdown. He, I believe, fights out of City Kickboxing.
That's what it says on the poster.
Yep. and he had a massive amateur career, massive
I was gonna say he's like nine
9-2.
and two. Oh, it's a win over Thomas Shellhammer. That's a good win. That's a hard guy to beat.
But I do, yeah. Mitch Kelly is a I'm surprised he hasn't gone pro yet. Well, the amateur record like 9-2. Why have you not gone pro? And he has I believe, the supremacy belt. So he has the platform to go pro. I'm surprised to be seeing him fighting at amateur again, to be honest. But he is fighting Angus Gordon, who is up and coming out of Canterbury Combat Centre, which is where Fergus Jenkins comes out of, and Coach Hostile. So that is a very up and coming gym. They're kind of hitting the platform now, especially with how Fergus has put them on the map. So that should be a good fight. Who was what was the other thing you wanted to mention?
Well, I don't know. I feel like I enjoy doing this. Maybe it's something we can do at the end of every episode now. What is your pick for fight of the night?
Yes. For so for fight of the night, I do think it is going to be. Let me have another look at the card. It might be Thalia Greatz, Brooke Pritchard.
That is also my pick.
Yeah. But if I go over all of them, I think Color Masters Jen Jeremic might be fight of the night. For the amateurs, I reckon that's a crazy good matchup. I'm very excited to see that. Byron and Suckman is also going to be interesting. Suck's got very, very heavy hands, and Byron, I believe, very much loves his jiu-jitsu, I think. I could be making that up, though. Yeah, so I do like that. That's a cool thing. Yeah, fight of the night. So, was your last prediction correct? Do you think that was the fight of the night, the one you predicted?
I don't remember what I picked.
Was Patrick Hill versus
Jake Piper.
Jake Piper, I believe.
I think that was definitely. I mean, it was a fantastic performance from Jake, and it led to an awesome photo. I think your pick of Mayocchi versus Trepka was probably fight of the night. Let me pull up that card again.
Because what did I say? Because they're both finish artists, right? So I said it's going to be a crazy fight. Yes. And ironically, it didn't finish.
Well, of course, both those guys are so tough.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hex 35 was just in general a great night of fights. Mm-hmm. Kasov versus Gusti was a great fight with its own kind of story that happened in it. Oh yeah, Kasov versus Gusti might have got my pick for maybe fight of the night. But
post fight of the night after watching it, yeah.
Yes, but as in what I actually think was probably fight of the night. I just think Piper versus Hill was just a great performance for Piper. I barely know her. But
he didn't fucking reshare my thing when I put that on there.
But yes, that'll do us for another episode of Across the Ditch. Now you've kind of mentioned it throughout the this this episode, but you will be there.
Yes, I will be there doing post-fight interviews. You'll catch the post-fight interviews typically the next day, afternoon the next day. But I will try to turn them around as fast as possible. There's a chance it might be Monday, because UFC 316 is on this weekend as well.
Quillen Salkild going out there repping our region. Shout out to Quillen.
He's opening the early prelim, first night of the fight, fight of the night.
Then you can after that you can turn it off.
Yes, yeah.
How do you feel about UFC 316? Let's turn into a UFC podcast.
All right, let me pull up the card.
I'll admit this. I'll look right down the barrel of the camera and I'll say it. I am a Juliana Pena fan, and I know that's sacrilege.
Yeah, but the reason you're a fan is like it makes it sound as kind of like it's not genuine.
No, but it's gone from I was ironically a fan, and now I'm unironically a fan.
Yeah.
Like I
hope she gets thrown to the fucking canvas by Kayla Harrison.
To be fair, she said that she thought Jack Della didn't beat Bilal Muhammad, so also maybe she lost her only fan. That was me. But no, not her only fans. I don't know what that's none of my business what goes on there. I don't even know if it exists. But I'm a fan of both the girls, to be fair. I'm a big fan of Kayla as well. That'll be a good fight. They talk about it being the biggest differential in terms of betting differential for a challenger to champion. Like
And
she's
is
the biggest underdog in champion history.
yeah, I mean
Come on, Juliana.
I just want Kayla Harrison to win for what it means, what it potentially means for Nunes coming back.
True.
That would be fantastic. But yeah, looking at this card, Sean Marab O'Malley, like I don't think that rematch needed to happen.
Nope.
Marab ran through him. O'Malley wasn't a dominant champion, so he shouldn't get the whole instant rematch. Obviously, it's not an instant rematch. Marab had a defense
Instant for
against
Sean.
Umar. Yeah, instant for Sean, I suppose. So we'll see what happens. He kind of jokingly hasn't been working on his wrestling, but I feel like that might have been misleading on purpose. There's no way you don't start covering where you were weak in your last fight. Obviously, Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison that we just covered. Calvin Gastelum, Joe Pyfer. Interesting, obviously, Calvin being the veteran and Joe kind of coming up. And Joe is no longer an undefeated phenom. Well, sorry, he never was. He was, but he was on a tear, and then he got knocked out in his last fight. So, I'm actually gonna verify that. This is actually the second time they put this fight together as well. It was
Oh,
supposed to happen
true.
earlier in
Yes,
the year.
he got sick.
Yeah, so yeah, he got knocked out in the first round. That's pretty brutal, and especially because he for a time was the hardest puncher or something, right? Or he claims that he hit harder than
Francis Ngannou.
Francis Ngannou. Yeah. Um, the Patchy Mix thing is I didn't really follow him. And where was he? One or was he in Bellator?
He was in Bellator.
Yeah, I could have. So that's obviously an exciting fix with Mario Batista's on a bit of a tear. So we'll see how that fight goes. That one's exciting. I'm always enjoy watching Kevin Holland fight. So he's versing Vicente Luque, who hasn't fought in a while, and that's a top 10 welterweight fight. I can't see the numbers here, but I'm pretty sure.
Yes, they're trying to
Yeah.
break in to the top 10.
But have you seen
Oh, it
that
might be top 15.
top 15? Um, have you seen that stat where the average age of Kevin Holland's opponents is like 39 years old or something like that?
Oof. Yes, Vicente
Um,
Luque is ranked number 14. Kevin Holland is not ranked.
but Johnny Walker's fight's cancelled. Johnny Walker's no longer on this card. I love Johnny Walker. Just unfortunate drop off for Johnny Walker, eh? Like, apparently also Quillen's not opening that card anymore. There's another
Yes,
one
they
that's
added
coming through.
another fight in, but yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he was opening the car. Oh well, wake up late, skip the first fight, watch
Yeah.
Quillen fight. I hope he lowers his UFC Octagon time. I sent him a text letting him know. I was like, hey man, 19 seconds of UFC Octagon time is way too high. If you could lower that average, I would really appreciate it. So
He just needs to hit the Eminari roll off the
yeah,
beginning. And yeah.
exactly. He just needs to run out and stomp the guy's knee. But that'll be a cool card. You can enjoy that when you can enjoy that the
As
day
I'm editing.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah, the day after Shuriken Fight Series, which will be on the UFC Fight Pass. So watch that.
This is also not uncommon. This has
Support
happened
Quillen.
before where Shuriken Fight Series is the night before a pay per view.
I think that's the way to
Um,
do it.
I mean, that's how Eternal does it.
True, exactly.
Yeah. They
Shout out to the UFC Fight Pass.
they literally go like when they're out in Australia, they Eternal will host an event in the city
Yes,
the day before, 2 days before.
yes,
Sorry,
in
yeah.
that city the day before. But thank you guys for watching this. This is always enjoyable. Let us know what you think is going to be fight of the night or anyone that you'd like us to talk about. Mention that in the
Comments
comments
down below.
below. Give us engagement, please.
Yes,
Um, if you go to the show, go say what's up to Paddy. Buy him a beer or don't because he's working.
yeah,
Buy
I'm
him a
working.
beer at the end of the night so he can drink at the moment the fight's over. So we're technically off the clock.
The interesting one for this one is my cameraman's not with me. He's on tour with someone
No.
overseas, so I'm going to be doing this all on my own with my equipment. So I apologize for the difference in quality. So I'll
The
be a
great
one man.
Sly Will.
The great Sly Will, with the Willie Uppers, as some people call him.
Why?
Navajos, I don't know. It's his name in the band that he's touring with. They call him Willie Uppers. So shout out, Will. You are missed. I had to try 2 attempts to get a replacement cameraman. Both of them failed. So
He's
uh,
irreplaceable.
he is irreplaceable, but it makes such a difference having someone just worry about the technical stuff and you just worry about the fighter. Um, so yeah, we'll see how I go. But yeah, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe both of our channels, Squared Up MMA and Southern Cross Combat, and we will see you for the next card.
Bye bye.